The commodification of female beauty in American media, culture, and influence. The commodification of female beauty is a thriving industry of products that thrives off of impressionability and insecurities of women, which are heavily influenced by media narratives. From magazine covers to narratives in the most popular reality TV shows like Love Island, the emphasis on female beauty is chronic. Kate Moss, a popular supermodel in the 90s, is known for her quote, "Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels." The modeling industry at the time was a prime promoter of drug abuse and self-starvation. It is my perspective that Taylor Swift, although presenting and aligning with feminism, lacks full nuance in the feminist discussion, as she is a thin white woman who fits Eurocentric beauty standards. The intersectionality of feminism is not fully demonstrated through her actions, as she lives a very privileged experience. Although she can listen to the experiences of others, she'll never understand what it is like to face them. And so I feel Taylor Swift has been a sufferer of patriarchy despite the very present privilege she has, and in her documentary Miss Americana, Taylor Swift talks about her eating disorder during her Red Tour and the struggle of her false perception of her body being as she believed it to be larger than it was. Ironically, her body was a topic in interviews for being too tall and too thin, proving you can never have a perfect body. Beauty standards are an ever-evolving narrative. The discovery of the Venus statue from 2000 BC held an emphasized large butt and bust, symbolizing the divine feminine and motherly role with an estimated BMI of over 30. In Paleolithic times, women were seen as sacred goddesses and to be desired, and larger bodies were idolized. Then in the 5th century BC, the beauty standard idolized proportion and perfection of the human body. The goal was symmetrical and to be perfect. The Renaissance and Baroque periods, larger bodies were back in style with curvature, seen as sensual and a sign of fertility. Stomach rolls were not something to be ashamed of, but instead seen as a divine female characteristic. And this is also all shaped throughout history, as the Renaissance is the coming back after the Black Plague, and so fertility was seen as the most important thing to help revive society. Therefore, larger bodies were more desired. After World War II, skinny frames appeared to be a more desirable feature, which may have been due to the fashions causing smaller bodies. Then in 1960 to 1970, the female body was encouraged to be curvy and voluptuous, with stars like Marilyn Monroe leading this idealism. Then the standard changed in 1990 with Kate Moss and Twiggy, and the new goal of being real thin. In 2019, the shift changed to have a large butt and bust but tiny waist. And models like Kim Kardashian took an active role in designing this beauty standard, with her show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, which chronicles the multi-step process these wealthy Hollywood elites take to look the way they do. Feminism has shifted along the standard of beauty. The emphasis on thinness is correlated with female success, as eras such as 1940 to 1950 showed an increase of the female workforce. This time period had a push for dieting, as it is a distraction for women. The ideals of thinness were again pushed in 1990 when women began to take power that was long theirs, and as it currently stands, women are outnumbering men in college, and the thin agenda is again being on the forefront of our media. If women spend most of their time hungry, how will they have the time and energy to compete for real success in the workforce? Female beauty standards are not random, but instead impact job performance. Feminism has had a multitude of shifts as women seek out equal rights regarding male domination and patriarchal systems. In the late 19th century, the first wave of feminism took hold. The first wave of feminism focused on women's right to vote. In 1960, the second wave took hold, and this focused on sexual harassment, reproductive rights, and discrimination based off gender. The current version of feminism is similar to the second and includes items like race, sexuality, class, as well as gender divides. The suffrage movement took a major role in mixing up the beauty standard. This movement focused on gaining gender equality and used fashion as a tool. The suffragists often chose not to wear typical corsets and instead opted for more comfortable clothing over binding previous fashion. However, anti-suffragists used this clothing shift and painted it in negative terms, claiming it was masculine, dominating attire. The shift to clothing items like pants allowed for more comfort and flexibility. The change in fashion was not just about comfort, though. It's also about freeing women's time. If women can be using pants rather than putting on a multi-step dress and being forced to do full glam every morning, just think about all the time that frees up. So much valuable time for women to focus energy on other items. It is my perspective that beauty standards are constructed in a cycle of movable trends that encourages mass consumption, but also it's designed to be purposeful, so women are distracted from larger issues. So we spend the majority of our time on our appearance and not on other items of importance. The cost of image. The beauty industry is worth $425 billion, and it uses key advertisement campaigns to encourage the sale of its products. The beauty industry is striving to achieve more revenue despite the harmful effects. The tanning industry, which is worth $5 billion, often uses similar advertisement strategies as the tobacco industry, and they are both known for health concerns, which they have to sort of mitigate these concerns and claim their product as a means for social acceptance and target specific populations. It is also worth noting that if you tan a lot in your youth, you will then wrinkle more, and therefore these companies can sell you their anti-aging products, keeping you a lifetime customer. Female beauty is a monetary commodification. One study found through a 20 semi-structured interview in Mount China with female waitresses that gender roles that these waitresses molded into were due to stereotypes they fit, and these servers had no objection even after knowing the stereotypes they were being subjected to. In businesses, attractiveness is used as a selling point and ultimately commodified. The truth of the matter is that internationally, female beauty is a selling point, and so unrealistic narratives are pushed as both the chase for the desired look is lucrative, as well as the sale of the presence of the women who achieve the look, as seen in the concept of restaurants like Hooters. Obsession with appearance is harmful. A research study conducted with a longitudinal design aimed to understand the correlation between body image and eating disorders connected to depression in young girls found the predicted outcome to be true, as disordered eating and body image dissatisfaction are positively correlated with depression in adolescent female populations. Adverse health effects are a very real negative outcome of poor body image. Eurocentric beauty standards can cause adverse effects in those who are not European. In one study in young women aged 16 to 24 in Uganda, scientists found these girls to be aware of their appearance due to images they are given while they are developing children. The pictures they receive play a vital role in what they desire to look like. Behavior like skin bleaching, self-starvation, or binging are adverse side effects of the content they consume. The result of the study concluded that attention to other items like education and hobbies is one way to avoid harmful effects of images pushed onto impressionable youth. Dissatisfaction with image is related to media output, which is why representation matters. When you grow up in an environment where everything is centered around white people, like Barbie, famous celebrities, and Disney princesses, the self-image of youth can be impacted as they desire to look like the content they consume. This is why it is critical to add representation to all forms of content and media, so every child grows up seeing themselves in popular movies or dolls. Taylor Swift may be unintentionally pushed for Eurocentric beauty standards as she is a white woman, and this still has an impact on young girls. So the inclusion of diversity in her Eras tour is one step to fixing the issue, but more needs to be done. There is another critical issue with the enforcement of unrealistic expectations for oneself, which is that we all age, grow, become sick, and change, and having a strict mold of what is acceptable to look like fails to recognize that our image is constantly in motion. If someone goes through a car accident and ends up with scars, does our society view them as less valued? And how do we dehumanize those who don't fit the Vogue ideal? A quote from Sonia Reen Taylor in her book, A Body Has No Apology, states, "Equally damaging is our instance that all bodies should be healthy. Health is not a state we owe the world. We are not less valuable, worthy, or lovable because we are unhealthy. Lastly, no standard of health is achievable for all bodies." Unlearning the programmed messaging that our bodies are items to be critiqued and valued off of looks is a key part of self-acceptance. Understanding that the view of beauty is not based anything more than advertisements and messages we have taken in, and this is evident as it changes throughout different time periods. The truth is, we are all beautiful in our own way, and in a broader context, I would argue it does not matter, because worth is not derived from physical presentation, but instead we are born with inherent value because we are human beings, and knowing that is the true freedom of self-preservation, acceptance, and self-love. Women have faced obstacles as they grow to become individuals who begin to climb the workforce. Taylor has a multitude of negative feedbacks as she succeeds, and the topics often noted in Taylor's music are heavily tied to the complex hardships of growing up in a male-dominated world. Taylor Swift's song The Man quotes, "They wouldn't shake their head and question how much of it I deserve. What I was wearing, if I was rude, could all be separated from my good ideas and power moves." In this song, she is looking at the complex dynamic between societal forms of female success. When women are achieving a multitude of goals, it is common for criticism to be placed on her, for which a man would never be judged. Common phrases like "she slept to the top" distance the reality of predatory work-based relationships and instead put the blame on women for falling into the situation. Swift has taken a bold approach in defining her femininity as it's related to social expectations. In her song Nothing New, she comments on the idealization of female youth and the fear women have as they age, even as they're beginning their adult lives. In Nothing New, the song states, "They tell you while you're young, girls go out and have your fun. Then they haunt and slay the ones that actually do it. How could a person know everything at 18 but nothing at 22? And will you still want me if I'm nothing new?" And someone else lights up a room, people love an ingenue. These lyrics are a commentary on the naivety and innocence that are idolized in American culture, but the emphasis placed value on youth harms women despite being quite young, like her, reference 22. They are left to feel like they have already aged out of their prime. In Taylor Swift's song You're On Your Own Kid, she says, I hosted parties and starved my body like I'd be saved by the perfect kiss. This lyric is a commentary on how Taylor has publicly discussed her eating disorder and the lengths taken to meet the beauty standards, which are widely felt and experienced throughout America. Taylor Swift's role as a billionaire is contrary to past gender norms, as 1974 was the year women even gained access to their own bank accounts. Her ability to write about the female experience in such a profound way has created a massive fan base and no short of what can be described as immense talent. But that is not without hate, as bold statements like Elon Musk writing, Fine Taylor, you win, I will give you a child and guard your cats with my life. This comment was posted on his X platform. Taylor's child-free but fulfilled lifestyle is a main criticism of her, as she is a role model for powerful women, and she is not in line with traditional gender norms, and yet she is happy, in love, and successful. She has molded a view that one can be a straight woman in America and yet not have a marriage and still achieve massive success. Criticisms by feminists are often that of labeling Taylor as performative and naive with white privilege, and although these are fair discoursive discussion around her, I believe it takes away from the massive strides she has made for women. She discusses very real female experiences, such as her song Dear John, which notably states, Don't you think I was too young to be messed with? This is a reference to her relationship with a 32-year-old when she was just 19. The reality of young women being preyed on by older men and put into unfair power dynamic relationships is very common, and songs like this point this out so young women can know red flags to avoid in their own lives. In many ways, Taylor feels like an older sister to girls as they grow up, and they attempt to navigate a world designed for the male experience, and that is why I classify her as a feminist. I believe she is helping to promote self-acceptance as she writes songs about the hardships of falling into her poor past self-image, and her Revival of Errors tour, as a healthy, strong woman who dominated her tour, gives hopes to girls who feel they need to be smaller either physically or metaphorically. Beauty image in many ways is about constructing women through means of time, starvation, money, and resources, and Taylor proves that you can be proud of your achievements. You don't need to shrink. You can be bold. You can be the man. And here is my bibliography.